So far this month, the stock market has been, let's say, interesting. So where are the best places to invest right now, and what are some of the best stocks to buy right now? Let's go ahead and break it down. So again, it's been interesting. Last week was one of the worst weeks we had seen so far this year, and at the time I'm doing this video, which is on a Monday, the stock market's up. We'll see what happens the rest of this week. But I did a little bit of research and found that there are a few areas in the stock market that are doing quite well, and they were not doing well earlier this year. So for example, we've known for more than a year it's been tech stocks, it's been AI. But right now, there are two sectors of the stock market that weren't doing well, they're understated, that are starting to take off. So let's start with what those areas are, and then let's talk about some stocks that you should consider adding to your watch list right now, because things may get a little interesting for the rest of the year. Area number one is REITs. Now, this is an acronym, Real Estate Investment Trust, REIT. These are known for paying very high dividends. They obviously invest in real estate. The best way I like to illustrate this, if you will, is they own land that obviously pays dividends. I like to think of them like apartment complexes, malls, if people still use those, if that's not an ancient artifact at this point in time, data centers, shipping, I was going to say shipping containers, but shipping facilities, things like that. That is what they do. One of the famous ones, or used to be famous, was AMT. That's the one I used to love a whole lot. Not no more, but they were American Towers REIT. They were the ones who owned the land around the cell towers that we all use for our phones here in the US. Now, they used to be very great. Haven't had them in years for good reason. But let's start there. So for REITs, Essex Property Trust is one of the best ones out there. 22% gain in the last 6 months and 33% gain over the last year. Ventas is one I may have mentioned in the past, but it's doing even better now. 46% gain in the last 6 months, up 51% over the last year. And that's just two. I would say there are probably 5 to 6 very good REITs out there. So if you're looking for something that, again, has solid gains and pays a good dividend, REITs have always been generally a good area to invest in, but they are back in style right now at this point in 2024. Before I get back into the areas, check out Walmart. I've been saying it almost all year, but Walmart is still doing well, up 28% in the last 6 months, up 41% over last year. They don't really fit in either of these two categories. However, the next category is utilities. Okay, now some of us can throw in NRG if you want to put them in the energy or the utilities category. I'm not going to put them in this particular list, though the company obviously is doing well. We've talked about them plenty of times, so I'm not going to put them in this particular list. But I will start off with Duke Energy. And the tools that I use to kind of find some of these stocks, I'll see, like 1 or 2 utility stocks, but as I start to continuously look and research and scan for stocks, I start to see the utility sector just grow on the list. It used to be, again, just 2. Now it's taking up like half the screen of just utility stocks. So again, they're taking up more space, they are starting to grow, and they're starting to hit that threshold of hitting my radar, which means they are worthy of talking about and starting to raise an eyebrow and become investing worthy for my criteria. If you want to know what my criteria is for me to consider investing in a stock, then you want to check out this video right here where I talk about all the things that I need before I decide to invest in a stock. And speaking of investing in a stock, don't forget, I do teach a free class on how you can get started investing and all the steps that you should consider, including how to create your own 6-figure investing plan. If you want to see that training and how it all works, that free class, then you should go here to this link, and that link is also in the description below. All right, so moving on. Duke Energy up 22% in the last 6 months and up 36% over last year. Utility companies are also known for paying pretty solid dividends. They are known somewhat as a regional monopoly. I'm not going to go back into the econ textbook, but you only have but so many energy companies within a given area. They are legally able to be regional monopolies. Again, it's an interesting case for me. It was just, I'm an econ nerd. I majored in economics for a reason. And I could just go on and on about the interesting economics of energy companies. But That's not what y'all hear. Because people fell asleep in econ class. I was not one of those. So as we continue to go on, the Southern Company, which is just an interesting name for a company to me. SO is the stock symbol there, but up 27% in the last 6 months, up 42% over the last year. Again, none of these are traditional tech companies, though they have very, very solid performance. Again, all of these for utilities pay a solid dividend, just generally known to pay solid dividends. Again, up 27% in the last 6 months, up 42% over the last year. And then you have a company that, this is a new one for me. Now, I've heard of many of these companies before. Some of them we've touched on years ago. Some we've touched on like Walmart earlier this year. But NiSource, N-I, and then just source, like you would spell source normally. It is in the utilities category, up 24% in the last 6 months, up 44% over the last year. Again, not a company I was familiar with, and this is perhaps the one that's most interesting to me to really dig deep on, just because, again, it's newer. And honestly, I don't think, outside of NRG, I don't own many utility companies. I just don't really come across them as often. I think the last one I had was, I think it was Pacific Energy. It was a California energy company, PRG, something like that. I'll have to go back and see. I know I had PRG or PGR, something like that. It wasn't Progressive, but it was very similar to Progressive. But it was a California energy company that did do well for quite a while. It started to taper off, but I think I got out with a small profit. But I do like to have a good energy company. I would prefer to have a good energy company. But this might be the time in the season. Also, don't forget, you want to see what type of energy. Is it just electric? Is it, is it coal or something like that? Is it heating? All that type of stuff, because we could be moving into a colder winter. Maybe not. Does this company in the past do better during that season? Yes or no? Is that going to help the stock? I would look at what we call seasonality. Go back and look at a chart on Yahoo Finance and see how well does it do in the fall, in the winter. And if you are really smart and you are really about your chicken, okay, which means to be about your money, to be about your money, then let's say if you're someone who checks your account every 6 months, or you're someone who likes to look at your stocks every 6 months, then what I would do, is check out one of these utility stocks, or even check out one of these REITs. But again, utilities tend to ebb and flow, in my opinion, more than REITs. So what I would do is say, let's say we're looking at the Southern Company. I would look at the Southern Company and say, between September and 6 months from September is, I'm trying to do it without counting, which is not the brightest thing for me to do. But was that February? Maybe? I don't know. I don't really know how to add months like that in my head, because those are words and not numbers. Whatever. Anyway, let's say that that's February. Okay, so if you were to do that, and I could be completely wrong, but if I were to do that, I would go back and look at last year, so 2023, 2022. I might skip 2020 because that was kind of an aberration, and then kind of go to 2019 and see, is there a pattern? Does the stock rise over time during that period, or does it just tend to fall, or is there no pattern at all? I want to see that, okay, because I also see where the Southern Company is. I assume it's in the South. Obviously, I would hope, right? But that's kind of the type of thing I want to see like a holiday, like Walmart. I assume, right, that they do better during the holiday season. So every holiday, I expect that to be your best shopping season. I expect it to be a bump in the stock. Makes sense, right? And that tends to be what happens when they announce earnings and stuff during that season. Do these utility companies have that same bump because of higher heating costs? Yes or no? Or because it's the Southern Company and it tends to be warmer anyway, do they not see that? Or is it now because it's hotter and people are running their AC more, and when it hits wintertime, they're not using it as much and it tends to dip? I don't know, because I don't know where in the South this company is. These are questions that I would ask for each of these utility companies as you are doing your research. If you want me to ask these questions with you, let me know in the comments, and we can drill down on like one of these and kind of research and do like a specific research video. But right now it's a one-on-one, a one-to-many conversation. You gotta let me know in the comments, and then we can kind of drill down and do a video on that. So feel free to let me know, and we can kind of drill down and say, hey, we all agree together to do a homework assignment on one of these companies, and we can talk about it. Very similar to how we did with Southwest, but on a company that is doing well right now and that is investable right now. I think that can be a video assignment or something for next week. But if you want to know other companies that are doing well right now that you might want to consider investing in, that are doing well but also under $150 per share today, then you want to check out this video right here.